All right, gentlemen, we have CMA Part 2, Section E, Essay 1. Orion Corporation is a logistics and transportation company like Aramex in UAE. The finance director, John Kocher, is in the process of evaluating a number of proposed capital investment projects. The following information relates to the firm's finances. Some year ago, the firm issued 10,000 bonds, each with a face value of $1,000, that's the par or face value or the nominal value, and paying annual coupon rate of 9.2%. That's the interest rate you pay. These bonds are now trading at 1040 per pound. That's the bond being traded at premium, 1040. A coupon payment on these bonds was made yesterday, and the bond matures next year. So it means just after 1 year the bond matures. This is the current market price. It means, just the point to note, gentlemen, remember you have just made the interest payment yesterday. The bond matures in next year, 1 year. So it means after 1 year you have to make two payments. Number one, you have to make this principal payment of $1,000, and you will also have to make 9.2% interest. So the total amount due at the end of the next year is 1,000 plus 92, 1,092. Keep that in mind, right? The firm has no other debt or preferred stock outstanding. Fine. The firm has 2 million shares of common stock outstanding. The stock is currently selling for $14.8 per share, and the firm is expecting to pay a dividend of 1.48 per share next year. That's the dividend next year. The dividend is expected to grow at a constant rate of 4% per year in the foreseeable future. The firm's corporation tax rate is 30%. Right. Kocher is reviewing the capital investment projects shown below on the next slide. All projects are in Orion's usual line of business, so there is no strategic incompatibility, and are being considered independently of each other. So these are independent projects. And what's the unique feature of independent projects? We can take on all the independent projects if they are giving us a positive net present value and if we have money available. So independent projects can be taken, all of them, if you have sufficient money and the projects are financially viable. But remember, if we have been given the mutually exclusive projects, it means only one can be taken out of them. So the following information is available. Note that the net present value of the projects are estimated using the weighted average cost of capital. I'm sure you know from Section B, Corporate Finance, CMA Part 2. These are the projects, Project A, Project B, C, D, E, F. These are the initial investments needed. These are the respective internal rates of returns. And this is the net present value calculated at the weighted average cost of capital. There are 6 projects. Some are giving positive NPV, some negative. Fine. Now, the firm is also evaluating another proposed capital investment, Project X, that is in completely different line of business from Orion usual operations. So this project could be strategically different. The project is expected to be financed from the existing capital structure and does not fall within any capital rationing restriction. We do not have any restriction of cash. We have sufficient cash available. Okay. The following forecasted net after-tax cash flows relate to the Project X. We need to invest $200,000 at the start of the project. The money comes in year 1, 2, 3, and 4. 60, 80, 80, 80. So this is the environment, and quite an extended one. There are 2 pages or 2 sheets that cover the whole information of the asset type. The first question, which is of course not a Section E question, based on your information provided, calculate Orion's weighted average cost of capital and show your calculation. That's clearly Section B, Corporate Finance. We have to calculate the weighted average cost of capital. So interestingly, in this question, there are just 2 different sources of finance, that is the bond and the common stock. So we just have to use these. We need to calculate their individual cost, and then we can easily find the cost of capital. Just go back to the scenario. All right, here we go. We need 2 things. First, we need to find the cost of debt, and we need to find the cost of equity. Then we need to find the proportion of debt. Debt is what proportion of the total funding that are employed in the company. And then what is the proportion of equity? Right? Let's first try to find the cost of debt. Cost of debt, first of all, just look at this. Right now, the bond is trading at 1040 and it has just 1 year to maturity. After 1 year, remember, you have to pay the full par value of the bond and you will also have to pay 9.2% interest. Meaning thereby, you will have to pay $1,092 at the end of 1 year. Right? If you want to calculate the cost of debt, please do not take 9.2. Why? The bond is nearing maturity. This is the current market price. This is what you will have to pay. If this is the current market price and this is what you will have to pay, how much more do you have to pay than the market price? It is 1092 less 1040. You will have to pay $52 extra, including interest and the differential in the market price and the current market and the bond redemption price. This 52%, the amount you will pay at the end of first year, at the end of the maturity, that the bond is about to expire, about to mature. This 52% is what percentage of the current bond price? 52 divided by 140, it's exactly 5%. So do not take this 9.2 coupon. Why? Because bond is nearing maturity. It will be redeemed for 1000 plus 92 interest. Right now it's 1040. The difference is 52. This 52, the net you will pay is what percentage of the current market price. This is the cost of debt. So don't just go by the coupon percentage and mess up things. So the cost of debt is 5%. Please remember. The next is I have to calculate the cost of equity. For the cost of equity, I have been given some pieces of information. I have been given the current share price. This is P0. I have been given the expected dividend to be paid next year. Expect to pay dividend next year. That is D1, by the way. And the dividend growth rate is 4%. Keeping all these things in mind, we can simply use the dividend discount model that will help us to calculate the cost of equity. Cost of equity is equal to next dividend, which is going to be 1.48, divided by the current share price, which is 14.8, plus the growth rate, which is 4%. If you solve this all, it will give you 1.48 divided by 14.8 times 100, 10 plus 4 gives you a total of 14%. So the total cost of equity is 14%. Please note down, I have used this formula, no science involved. Cost of equity is next dividend upon the current share price plus growth rate. That's your dividend discount model. D1, P0, current share price 14.8. It gives me 0.1, which is 10%. 10% plus 4, 14%. So gentlemen, I have my cost of debt 5%. I have my cost of equity 14%. And what I'm doing, I'm trying to find the cost, the weighted average cost of capital. The next thing I have to find is the percentage of the funds that represent debt and the percentage of funds that represent equity. How do I do that? Let me show you. I have 10,000 bond issued with this market price. Do not take the par value. It means the total money invested in my business at the current market price is 10,000 multiplied by 1040. That's about $10.4 million. $10.4 million has come from debt. What about equity? 2 million shares, each trading currently at 14.8. So 2 million shares times 14.8. This is the market value of equity, 29.6 million. The total funds now with me, 10.4 plus 29.6, gives me a total of 40 million. A nice, lovely, rounded number, 40 million. This is the total funds deployed under the current market price. Now I need to calculate the proportion. Debt represents what proportion of the total funding and equity represents. So it's very simple. 10.4 divided by 40 times 100. That's about 26%. And equity is 29.6. divided by 40 times 100, and of course that's 74%. Now gentlemen, all done. Kullu khalas. We have the cost of debt to be 5%. We have the cost of equity just calculated 14%. We have their individual proportion. If you want to calculate it, you can calculate it right now. What is weighted average cost of capital, called WACC? 26% of 5, 26% of 5%, and 74% of 14%. Means 26% of my funds have come at a cost of 5%, and 74% of my funds have come at a cost of 14%. One important adjustment that you must not forget is to reduce the cost of debt with the tax, because interest is a tax paid expense, so it results in reduction in the, so it's going to be 26 into 5% into 1 minus tax rate. Tax rate has been given as 30%. Don't forget that. And to this add your 74% times 14%. So I'm going to calculate it right now, and then I will show the working. 26% of 5% multiplied by 70% plus 74%, so 14%. That gives me 11.27. 11.27. Let's see. Here we go. 11.27. 5% was for bonds, 14% for equity. This was the proportion. So what he has done, 26% times 5%, 1 minus tax rate. Why? Always do that. Whenever you have to take the cost of debt in our weighted average cost of capital, the debt cost must be reduced because of tax saving tax. The interest payment is tax allowed, tax deductible, right? And to this you add 74% of 14, and that's you get 11.27 represents your weighted average cost of capital. This was your first question. All right, next question number 2. Referring to the projects A through F, identify which projects should be accepted by Orion and provide a brief defense of the decision criteria that you have used in arriving at your recommendation. Go back to the scenario, and these are the projects. Which of these projects you will take? I told you a little while earlier, all these projects are independent projects, which means you can take all of them as long as they are financially viable. Can you take project A? Yes, you should, because it is giving a positive NPV. Should you take project B? Yes. C? Yes. E? Yes. What about E? No, because D is giving you a negative NPV. F is also giving you a negative NPV, which means the projects that are worth investing in are project A, B, C, D, A, B, C, and E. If you need to give them in a ranking form from the most desirable to the least desirable one, so you would go from E first, then it's going to be A, then C, and then what? And then last B. Others are not, you don't even need to mention because they have negative NPV. So E, A, C, B, these are the projects that are worth investing in, right? So that what the question was all about. Question 2 said, question referring to the project A through F, identify which projects should be accepted by Orion, provide a brief defense of the decision criteria that you have used in arriving at your recommendation. So these are the projects E, A, C, B, and what is your justification? These projects have a positive NPV, so any project giving you positive NPV should be accepted, and that's exactly what he said. Project E, A, C, and B. You don't need to write the table, just write the text form, this one only, and give the selection in a paragraphic form. Write in a paragraphic form E, A, C, B, and give this. The reason for using NPV is that this criterion maximizes the value of the firm, and accordingly EACAB has been. So he has also discussed IRR comparatively. So when you have to decide between IRR and NPV, NPV is a better decision criteria because IRR can give misleading results. So that was your question number 2. Question number 3, referring to the project X. And what's the project X? I guess this one. This project requires initial investment, and these are the annual cash flows for year 1, 2, 3, and 4. Question number 3. Referring to the project X, state whether the firm should use its weighted average cost of capital to evaluate this project. Explain your answer. Weighted average cost of capital, we just calculated a little while earlier, is the aggregate cost of different sources of finance. You just saw company has deployed two types of resources. One has come from bonds or debt, and other is equity. Debt represented 26% of the funding and equity represented 74% of the funding. So the question is, should we use this 11.27% weighted average cost of capital as our cost of capital for evaluating projects? If you think yes, defend your answer. If you think no, then you should say no, why not? He has taken the point that weighted average cost of capital is not the suitable hurdle rate. Why? Why for project X? The reason is, if you just go back to the scenario, you will know the reason. The projects that are currently considered ABCD, they are all in line with the company's current strategic dimensions. They perfectly fit in their current circumstances. Perfect strategic fit. This project X is a different line of business from Orion's usual operations. Since this project is different, so you cannot use your weighted average cost of capital for the new project that is significantly different from the existing projects. That's the point of defense that you must take on in your responses. So since this project is not the same line of business as the firm's current operations, it is likely that the project would alter the firm's business risk. Perhaps we might need a higher cost of capital for project X or lower. So we should not simply use the current weighted average cost of capital for evaluating this project. So you should use a project specific hurdle rate. A project specific hurdle rate is a unique hurdle rate that is related or relevant to this project. For example, let's say this project is relatively riskier, and risk adjusted rate that we have calculated using computation is about 16%. So this is the rate that you should use to evaluate the project X, right? So every project has a unique peculiarities. So keeping that in mind, the rate could be different for project A, B, C. So we just can't use the existing cost of capital as our rate for evaluating the other projects, right? So these are the lines on which you will give your responses in this way. Use a project specific hurdle rate. This project could be different, so it could alter the business risk. That's the right response. All right, question number 4. Based on an analysis of the two firms with operations similar to project X. Now we are trying to calculate the rate for which that we will use for project X. So for that, what we are doing? Interesting question, a very good question, I must say. The first one is a good one. So based on an analysis of two firms with operations similar to project X, Kocher has determined that the project beta is 2. So he has specifically calculated the risk related to this specific project to be 2.0. That's beta. The risk-free rate is 10% and the market risk premium is 15%. This information is sufficient to prompt you that you are going to use the capital asset pricing model. We have been given the beta, the risk-free rate, the risk premium. What else do you need then? That's all what you need. So calculate the net present value of the project X and provide a recommendation on whether the project should be accepted or not. Gentlemen, first of all, ladies, remember, we cannot use our existing weighted average cost of capital of 11.27% to evaluate the viability of this project. This project is significantly different from the current line of operations. We need a new discount rate, and he has given you the idea to calculate the discount rate using the capital asset pricing model. You need to write down the formula. I'm sure all of you know. It's risk-free rate plus beta times RM, that is expected return on the market, minus risk-free rate. Just plug in the numbers and you will get your result. Risk-free rate is 10%, beta is 2, it's more volatile than the overall market returns. Market return is 15%, risk-free rate is 10%. Just simplify 15 less 10, 5 times 2, 10, 10, 20. So the risk adjusted rate to be used for discounting is 20% for project X. This was the first part of the question. Next, we have to calculate the net present value also, and then give the recommendation And we are just on question number 4 and 20 minutes are over. They are taking time. So we need to calculate the net present value. We know the mechanism. We have the discount rate now. What we are going to do, we know the net present value is the present value of inflows minus initial investment, and that's all. And the discount rate that you should use is 20%. For this, we need to go back to our scenario. Second slide, this is the initial investment. 60, 80, 80, 80. These are the cash flows in year 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right? So going back to question number 4, now we can plug in the related information. Present value of inflows. We have 60,000 coming in year 1. So it must be multiplied with the discount factor, remember, of 20% for the first year. Next year inflow is 80. Multiply this with the discount factor, 20% for the second year. Again coming 80 for the third year, discount factor. You don't need to write this. You do not need to write this on the exam. You just plug in the discount factors and do the calculation straight away. Save your time. Do not go for the niceties. You won't get credit for the niceties. Do your computation and go home. Plus discount factor for 20% for the third year. And lastly, we have one more cash flow coming at the end of the fourth year. 80,000 multiplied by discount factor, 20% for the fourth year. And from this all, you need to deduct your initial investment of $200,000. So I'm going to do the computation for you. $60,000 coming at the end of the first year. The discount factor of 20% for the first year is 0.833. You know how to calculate. You know how to calculate using calculator or to use the discount table. 80,000 second year cash flow, second year discount factor 0.694, 20% discount factor. 80,000 coming at the end of year 3, multiply with the discount factor for third year 20%, 0.579. And lastly, 80,000 coming at the end of the fourth year, discount factor is 0.482. Let me calculate first the present value of inflows. 60,000 times 0.833 plus 80,000 multiplied 0.694 plus 80,000 multiplied 0.579 plus 80,000 multiplied by 0.482. It gives me 190,380. 190,380. From this, you need to deduct the initial investment. And you can see it's a negative number, negative 200,000. So it's giving you negative 9620. So this project is giving you negative net present value. And what your recommendation be, since the NPV is negative, the project should be rejected. That's what he's done. NPV is negative, the project should be rejected. So you know how to lay down your calculations. And there you go. Next question number 5. In the past, the firm has typically used the payback period method for evaluating risky projects and accepted projects with the payback period less than 3 years. So this is the cutoff date. We need our projects to pay us back within 3 years. Calculate the payback period for project X based on the firm's payback period threshold of 3 years, and what decision should the firm make regarding project X. Remember, we have 3 years cutoff period. Going back to the scenario. Alright, so we have these numbers. Write negative 200,000 on your calculator. To this add 60. You're still with a negative 140 at the end of year 1. Add 80. You're still at negative 60,000 at the end of year 2. We need our 60,000 to be recovered from third year's cash flow. In third year cash flow, we are getting a positive 80. So this 60,000 which we need from the third year, it is what fraction of your third year? 60 needed out of 80. 60 by 80 gives me a fractional result. 60 by 80, it's 0.75. So it means these 2 whole years plus 0.75 of the third year gives me the total payback period. So yes, as per the payback period, our threshold was 3 years. So this project is paying itself back within 2.75. So as far as payback period is concerned, the project is desirable. So going back to the scenario, question number 5. payback period is 2.75. So based on the threshold of 3 years, the firm uses it would accept the project because the firm recovers its initial investment in less than 3 years. That was 2.75. Right. Next question. Provide one reason why using the payback period can result in the firm making a suboptimal decision. In other words, you have to list down the weaknesses of payback period, the disadvantages or drawbacks of the payback period. First drawback is that the payback period results in suboptimal decision. The reason, it ignores the time value of money. It considers $1 at the end of 1 year to be the same at $1 at the end of second year, which is not true. This is the major criticism on payback period. It ignores the time value of money. Then, it ignores the cash flows in the later years. We have just looked at the third year. We need our cash flows to be recovered within third year. What about the cash flows occurring after year 4, 5, 6? The cash flows occurring in the later years could be very high. Cash flows could be very high in the later years. That's the drawback of payback period. It ignores cash flows after the cutoff date, and those cash flows could be significant. So you might be making a wrong decision by relying totally on payback period. So, other than this answer to this question, remember, payback period alone is not good. This payback method is used in conjunction with NPV. Payback is good that it helps you to recover the money as quickly as possible, but you cannot totally rely on payback period because these are the drawbacks. Time value of money is not considered in payback, and it ignores all the significant cash flows that come after the payback period. So that completes this essay.